Chairman, I rise in strong opposition to this legislation. The Scrub Act would establish a $30 million commission of unelected, and I emphasize that, unelected bureaucrats to duplicate work that agencies are already supposed to be doing. The bill would focus on the costs of regulations while disregarding their benefits and protecting the most vulnerable populations in our country, like the children in Flint, Michigan. If there is any doubt about this, one need look no further than the so-called cut-go provision in this bill. That provision would require that when an agency makes a new rule, it must offset the cost of that new rule through the repeal of an existing rule. This applies even if the new rule is in response to an imminent health or safety threat. Agency compliance with this cut-go provision would also be subject to judicial review, which prolongs the process even more. This would inevitably result in lengthy delays in both industry and nonprofit groups routinely file challenges to agency decisions. President Obama has already issued 2 executive orders to eliminate unnecessary regulations. On January 18, 2011, he issued Executive Order 13563, requiring each agency to implement plans for reviewing existing rules. That executive order requires each agency to, and I quote, periodically review its existing significant regulations to determine whether any such regulations should be modified, streamlined, expanded, or repealed. In addition, President Obama issued Executive Order number 13610 on May 10, 2012, requiring agencies to report twice a year to the Office of Information Regulatory Affairs on the status of their review efforts. In November 2014, a report prepared for the Administrative Conference of the United States highlighted the impact of these mandated reviews, concluding, and I quote, implementing President Obama's executive orders on retrospective review of regulations, agencies identified tens of billions of dollars of cost savings and tens of millions of hours of reduced paperwork and reporting requirements through modifications of existing regulations, end of quote. Congress has the authority and certainly the responsibility to conduct oversight, to review existing agency rules, and to recommend or mandate reforms. Yet, this bill would create a new commission that would cost taxpayers $30 million to do what agencies in Congress are already supposed to be doing. In addition, the Commission's report to Congress on the rules it recommends repealing would subject to an up or down vote by the Congress. Congress would not be allowed to vote on each regulation individually, and this would usurp the authority of the Congress. One of the most troubling aspects of this bill is that it would entrust this unelected commission with extraordinary and virtually unlimited authority to subpoena witnesses or documents. Section 101C of the bill states, and I quote, this commission may issue subpoenas requiring the attendance and testimony of witnesses and the production of any evidence relating to the duties of the commission. The attendance of witnesses and the production of evidence may be required from any place within the United States at any designated place of hearing within the United States, end of quote. Most agency inspectors general do not have such broad authority to compel witness testimony. Yet, this unelected commission would have this authority. This means that it could compel an individual to testify on any subject. For example, a school teacher could be compelled to testify about education rules, or a senior citizen could be compelled to testify about Medicare or Social Security rules. This extraordinary subpoena power is especially troubling because the Commission's jurisdiction is limitless. There's no restriction on what regulations the Commission can review. 3 prominent law professors with the Center for Progressive Reform sent a letter opposing an identical bill in the last Congress. The letter said this proposal would, and I quote, create a convoluted, complex, and potentially very expensive new bureaucracy to review existing agency rules and make recommendations for the repeal or weakening of those rules with little meaningful oversight, transparency, or public accountability to ensure that these recommendations do not subvert the public interest, end of quote. In addition, Citizens for Sensible Safeguards, a coalition of more than 150 consumer, labor, and good government groups, also opposes the bill. This bill could have dangerous consequences for the health and safety of the American public. Therefore, I strongly urge every member to oppose it, and with that, I reserve the balance of my time.